Hello, friends, and welcome to Faith, Relationships, and Life. Here's the place where we often say life is about relationships, and I must make note. You see the clouds behind me here. This is a wonderful place that we're staying. I'm in Texas as we're recording this, but this is just a very nice apartment that the Ramsar Baptist Church has allowed me to stay in. So I'm enjoying this and enjoying Texas. Anyway, as I mentioned, this is the place where we like to say life's about relationships, and we like to talk about faith, relationships, and life. Those things are important. It is our goal to be a blessing to you with the thoughts and the lessons, the things that we try to share here. We want to be a blessing. And I want to ask you, if you would please, to be a blessing to us. If you'll simply tap that subscribe button, that doesn't cost you anything and it helps us. And then tap that like button, that also will help us. And then please share and comment. Again, our desire simply to try to help. All right. To introduce our topic today, I want to take us to a very familiar passage of Scripture in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1 begins, "To everything there is a season." Now, I recently did a little studying on this passage. I like to read commentaries, and so I looked up what a couple of folks had to say about this, and the word everything is the idea of the actions of people. So the actions of people, okay, or there's an appropriate time for action. So the word season means a fitting time, or as I mentioned, an appropriate time. So we could say there is a fitting time or appropriate time for us to take specific action. Now the passage continues with the teaching, and I'm not going to list everything. I'm not going to read the entire passage, I think down to about verse 13 or so, but just kind of hit a few highlights if I could. For it says, "For everything there's a season. There is a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to tear down and a time to build up." And I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. "A time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to celebrate, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate." And then it says this, "a time of war and a time of peace." And that brings us to our topic today. I want to talk to you about the reality that sometimes in life, the appropriate thing to do is to fight. One of my very favorite stories in the Bible is about David and Goliath in the valley of Elah. This battle or challenge, we might could call it a challenge, had gone on for 40 days. Twice a day for 40 days, Goliath would stand out in the valley of Elah, and he would call out to Saul and the Israelite army. And basically, and again, I'm going to paraphrase this a little bit, he would say, "Send someone out here to fight me, and if I kill your guy, then you will serve us as our slave." Excuse me again. "You will serve us as our slaves. But if your guy kills me, then the Philistines, we will be your slaves. We will be slaves to the Israelites." So for 40 days, 40 long days, Goliath cursed God and challenged Saul and his army. For 40 days, Saul and his army lived in fear. Now, I'm sure while all this was going on, they're having a lot of conversations. There's a lot of meetings taking place. I'm sure they were having strategic meetings and discussing strategy. And I'm sure that they were probably praying and maybe having some prayer meetings as well about what to do. And they probably did a lot of thinking and meditating. And I just imagine, this is what I think I would have been doing, perhaps they were studying battles of the past, or maybe they were having conversations and saying, do you remember this battle? And we heard about this big battle and how they fought and how they won that big battle. So I kind of think those things were going on, but all while that was happening, twice a day, Goliath was coming out there and challenging them, send someone out here to fight me. And if I kill your guy, you will be our slaves. If your guy kills me, we will be your slaves. Well, then David showed up. And his father Jesse said, your brothers are up there fighting in the army of Israel there, and you go up there and you take some fried chicken to them and some biscuits and all that kind of thing. So David, he shows up and he basically questioned what was going on. He basically shows up and he sees all this. He sees Goliath standing out there and cursing and carrying on and giving this challenge. And so David basically says, why hasn't anyone gone out there? Why isn't anyone fighting this Philistines? Well, David's brother Eliab, he's in the army there, and he made fun of David. He said, with whom hast thou left? With whom hast thou left those few sheep? That was an insult. He was basically saying, David, you're just a boy. You're just a shepherd boy, and we're soldiers here, and we're going to handle this, and you just go on about your business. And then David asked an important question. David said, is there not a cause? In other words, he's saying, isn't there something here? Don't we have something worth fighting for? And can I say to you that there was a cause? There was a cause for the people of Israel. There was something that they needed to understand. They had something they needed to fight for. There was freedom from being in bondage. There's a lot of people that are in bondage to themselves. There's a lot of people that's in bondage to addictions and bad habits and defeated thinking. And the only way we can overcome those things is we have to fight. And so for them, there was the idea of they needed to fight for their own freedom and for the personal freedom of worship. And then truth. There was truth. And truth is worth fighting for. And their families. These were all men. And I would guess that the majority of those men had families, wives, children, whatever. And it would have been a terrible thing if the Philistines won and the Israelites became slaves to the Philistines. The families would be destroyed. So there was the family. And then, as I kind of mentioned a moment ago, we have spiritual battles of our own for our own well-being, and we must fight. Write this on your heart. You will not win a spiritual battle if you do not fight. If you're going to win, you're going to have to fight. So David, he went out and he confronted the giant Goliath in the power of God. Now, when I read the scriptures in events like David and Goliath, I like to imagine that I'm there. I imagine that I walk out there, and as a little boy, a teenage boy, I walk out there with I walk out there with David. And I might be kind of standing off to the side, but I'm with him. I'm like, all right, David, let's get there. Let's take him down. I want to see this. I don't want to miss this. Now we know that David took a slingshot and he fired it up, and he launched that stone that hit Goliath in the head. But we know that ultimately God killed Goliath. I love that David went out there and he said, today God's going to deliver you into my hand and I'm going to take off your head. And I may be paraphrasing a little bit. God killed Goliath, but not until David confronted the giant. Sometimes you have to fight. Now the thought there is that God will help you fight your battles, but you have to confront your giants. You have to go out and collect 5 smooth stones, and you have to load your slingshot, and you have to stand there before the giant, before the thing that you're fighting against, and for the cause that you have. Your giant might be an addiction that's destroying you. Your giant might be bitterness, or your giant might be anger. Your giant might be a defeated mindset. Your giant might be that you don't see any value in yourself. Your giant might be that you're on the verge of giving up. Well, there is a cause. Your life is the cause. Your freedom is the cause. Your victory is the cause. And sometimes you have to fight. You may have a battle within your family. Your family might need restoration. Your family is worth fighting for. My dear friends, sometimes we need to grieve. Sometimes that's the appropriate thing to do. Sometimes the appropriate thing to do is to seek counsel. Sometimes the appropriate thing to do is to rest. Sometimes the appropriate thing to do is to accept our circumstances. But sometimes we just need to load the slingshot and confront our giant and fight. So I want to ask you, is there someone, let me start over here, okay? Is there someone in your valley of Elah that's trying to defeat you, that's trying to take control of you, that's trying to destroy your life, that's trying to take your freedom from you, your free spirit, if I can say it that way, that's trying to take your dream from you? Is there someone there that's challenging you and trying to take from you? Confront the giant. Rise up. Load the slingshot and fight. This is Don Woodard. Thank you for listening.